we want to tell you about something new here at the Hopkins Center called Shift. And I want to set the stage, explain a little bit about what we're trying to do, and then welcome some of our partners who are really actively involved in the cornerstones of what Shift is. So Shift for us is a way to shift into summer, to shift your thinking about live performance, to shift the way you think about visiting artists by collaborating with the great things that happen here at Dartmouth. You'll see as we talk about the cornerstones of Shift that some themes will emerge. There's a sense of what the 60s were like and what it means to us today. There's a sense of social justice and justice generally and what we should be considering and thinking about today and what some of our artists are thinking about. And I'm really, really happy to say that this is the first time where we programmed toward some really iconic classes that are happening this summer. And so we have faculty collaborators who are at the forefront of Shift, and I'd like you to hear from them about what they're cooking up with us and how we'll work together. So we'll be working with Michael Casey, Susannah Heschel, and Randy Balmer, and I'm going to start by introducing you to Michael Casey, the chair of the music department. He's also, he has many, many titles, so I have to read them. He's the James Wright Professor of Music, Professor of Computer Science, and Director of the Graduate Program in Digital Music. Michael Casey, please come and tell us what's going to happen along Shift.
Thanks, Mary Lou, for that wonderful introduction, and also for the exciting announcement about Shift, which I'm personally really excited about. If you haven't seen the program, take a look, it's amazing. And opening Shift will be DAX. What is DAX? Has anyone been to DAX before? Yeah, some of you. It's the Digital Arts Expo. And what that means is digital art really is all the stuff on campus that's done across the arts, all the way over into engineering and into the sciences, where people make stuff that could be called art, but it doesn't really fit in a traditional gallery or on the concert hall stage. And so what we do is we create an enormous exhibition featuring about 75 to 100 students' works, and we kind of have projections and a big show. Opening DAX, we're really happy this year that we have a very special guest, Morton Subotnick. Has anyone heard of Morton Subotnick? Right, some of you, right. 1960s, he was a guy, he was a pioneer of the synthesizer, which is the foundation of electronic music, right? If you ever saw A Clockwork Orange, or listened to Switched On Bach, right? Or one of those albums from then, that was the synthesizer writ large in those albums. Morton Subotnick's coming in. Here's the thing about the synthesizer. What was the first synthesizer? Well, if you go back to the 1500s, J.S. Bach was playing the organ, right? Which was just being developed, and it was the first time you could have a mechanical machine change the sound, and you could play with sound, timbre, as well as notes and rhythm, and Bach was a master at this. So it's interesting to think of the synthesizer as a kind of extension of the organ, right? It's got a classical tradition. So on the Saturday night, so Friday night we're opening with Morton Subotnick, a luminary of the synthesizer. On Saturday night we're having a concert on the Spalding stage that's going to use the big organ that's in Spalding, but we're going to put it into a contemporary context and use it as if it's a synthesizer. So it's going to be like the 1500s meets the 21st century. We're going to put that together, and it'll be awesome. It'll be on the stage, you can mill around, it'll have a 60s kind of feel. And then we'll spill into the Visual Arts Center, and it'll be a huge happening with projections and screenings and student performances and a big closing party. So we hope to see you there. That's DAX, June 22nd and 23rd. All right.
Michael's already referenced the 60s and talking about synthesizers. So it just so happens that it is the 50th anniversary of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper. So all of that interesting orchestration and sound, all that electroacoustic music, the Beatles brought it to the forefront, and we are so excited to be able to host Mark Morris Dance Company's reimagining of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band in a performance called Pepperland. And we're a commissioner, so all of the Upper Valley can feel invested in this great celebration. And it fits perfectly with a new course being taught by Randy Balmer. And I'm going to ask Randy, who's the John Phillips Professor in Religion, the chair of the Department of Religion, to come and talk about this groovy new course.
Thank you. Appreciate that introduction. My field is religion in North America. I study all sorts of things from Orthodoxy in Alaska to the religious right to the colonial era and so forth. But for years I wanted to teach a course on the 60s. And so the dean asked for a humanities course to be taught this summer. And I thought, here's my moment, I'm going to do a course on the 60s. So you think about the 60s, and I define the 60s for the purpose of the course, roughly from the assassination of John Kennedy on November 22nd, 1963, to the resignation of Richard Nixon on August 9th, 1974. So it's not the 60s, properly speaking, but sort of the long 60s. And you think about what's happened, or what happened in American culture, in particular during those years. You had certainly the assassination, the ascent of Lyndon Johnson, all sorts of musical things happening, including Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, also A Hard Day's Night, which is going to be shown as part of this festival. The Rolling Stones, Arlo Guthrie, Alice's Restaurant, Mamas and the Papas, and I'm talking to a music person here who could keep going, and many of you remember that as well. But also politically, and in terms of culture, the Civil Rights Movement, the March from Selma to Montgomery, which my colleague Susannah Heschel knows very, very well, and has been part of the reenactment of that as well. The assassinations of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, 50 years ago yesterday, as well as Bobby Kennedy, a time of great social upheaval. So this course is going to try to capture all of that. Revolution in music, revolution in art, all sorts of things are happening in American society, in particular during that time. It's also a time for an assault on institutions. And I think much of what we have inherited from the 60s is a deep suspicion of institutions, everything from educational institutions to political institutions, and certainly in terms of the larger society and the ways in which we are deeply suspicious of our political leaders, going back to Richard Nixon and his shenanigans, although somehow he looks better and better all the time. So those are some of the things that we're going to be exploring in this course. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun, and I appreciate the opportunity to collaborate with the Hop.
Thank you. When I got to campus, one of the real delights was to meet Susannah Heschel and find out that we had a passion in common around the same director's work and a particular production. And the director's name is Karin Kunrad, and the production is a production of Merchant of Venice that is actually a very brave undertaking for Karin and her company, because it was originally premiered for the 500th anniversary of the Jewish ghetto in Venice. And I was privileged enough to be at that premiere performance and feel the resonance of that play in the context of the history of that place. So this is a production that really reflects upon not just the content, but the place. And I'm so excited that we are able to bring this to Dartmouth in collaboration with Susannah and what I'm told is the most populated class, no competition, Randy, I'm sorry, but like the most populated class on campus in the summer. Like 300 students take her class on the history of Jewish studies. But we're excited to bring it here, and we're excited to put it here in a very special place in the Bima. So Susannah, can you come up and talk to us a little bit about that? Yes, thank you.
Hi, I'm Susannah Heschel, and I'm a professor of religion, and I chair the Jewish Studies program here, which, as you may know, is a hot program at Dartmouth. We estimate about half the Dartmouth students take at least one Jewish Studies class, which is great, and as Mary Lou said, our summer course in modern Jewish history is particularly popular. I want to just say, in China, there are 1.5 billion people, and when they take one play to study in the high schools in China by Shakespeare, which play by Shakespeare do they choose? The Merchant of Venice. And we may react with some trepidation. So The Merchant of Venice can be a problematic play. How should we understand it? Is it an anti-Semitic play? Is it an anti-Semitism play? How do we read it? In my class in Modern Jewish History, which last summer had 300 students, we begin the course by reading The Merchant of Venice. And in fact, Patricia McKee in the English department and I co-teach a seminar on the play and how it's been interpreted in Germany, in Victorian England, in Israel, on the Yiddish stage, different contexts. So the play itself is complex, and the ways in which the play has been interpreted also complex and rich. This production, led by Karen Kunrad, is extraordinary because she tries to show us that there are many different aspects to Shylock's personality. And she does it by having 5 actors portray Shylock in the one production. And we're very fortunate that in connection with my class, we're able to bring her production to Dartmouth this summer and open the summer term with that play and with the study of the play in the course that I'm teaching. So I think summer term at Dartmouth is something very special. It's a shift way of thinking. The sophomores are here. We do extraordinary things, and I invite all of you to come to the production. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susannah. So those are the cornerstones of Shift. I want to let you know that we will also be welcoming a performance artist by the name of Gina Adams, a Native American performance artist who will be having an artist in residency throughout the summer, but will open her exhibition with readings and staging all around the campus. We look forward to having her with us, and we thank Studio Art and particularly Jerry Otten for bringing her to the campus. The theater department will be celebrating their Vox Fest during Shift. So that will also be going on, and there'll be a number of public lectures by our faculty and others to illuminate this work. Mark Morris, the choreographer, himself curated some films for us, and yes, there are some iconic films, and he will be here to actually introduce one of them. Summer will have a lot to offer, and we have some people to be thankful to for making this possible and for making this summer possible. So I want you to know that this is an experiment, but for people to really reach out and support this has meant a lot to those of us at the HOP who really want to try some new things. So we want to thank the Office of the Provost. We want to thank the Office of the Associate Dean of Arts and Humanities, Barbara Will, who just joined us. Barbara, thank you for your courage and your support. Dartmouth College Ethics Institute, Master of Arts of Liberal Studies program, Geisel School of Medicine, the Leslie Center, the Kenneth Harrell at Montgomery Endowment, a number of alums, and I have to thank specifically Susannah Heschel, who did so much of the legwork to get so many of these people excited and on board, and some donors of the Hopkins Center and the Hood, Claire Forrester and Dan Bernstein, who are supporting the commission for Mark Morris. So keep your eyes on our website and your ear to the ground. Thank you for coming out, and please tell your friends there's going to be a lot to be enjoying this summer and more to come even after this.